On the remote planet of Viridian 3, the dusty landscape was a sharp contrast to the vibrant civilizations Jack had studied in his career as an archaeologist. Today, he was accompanied by his colleague and old friend, Dr. Simon Hayes, a seasoned linguist whose expertise was ancient alien languages. As their boots crunched over the desolate terrain, Jack adjusted his tool belt, filled with brushes, scanners, and various excavation tools. You know, Simon, every time we set foot on a new planet, I feel like we're kids again. Rummaging through the attic of the universe, Simon laughed, scanning the horizon with his binoculars. Except this attic hasn't been opened for thousands of years. Any sign of the cavern you mentioned? Jack pointed to a rocky outcrop ahead. Over there. Satellite images showed irregularities in the rock formation. It's worth a look. They approached the site, and Simon set up the holographic mapper, a device that projected light into the ground to reveal hidden structures. The mapper flickered, then stabilized, revealing the outline of an underground chamber. Bingo, Jack said, grinning as he started to clear the debris. Simon documented the coordinates and began deciphering the faint symbols etched into the cavern's entrance. Look at this, Jack. These inscriptions, they're not just decorative. They're a narrative. Simon's voice was filled with excitement as he traced the lines with his fingers. See here, these repeated glyphs? They speak of guardianship and a dire warning. Jack's brush uncovered a small, metallic object half buried in the dirt. It was oval and adorned with the same glyphs that Simon was studying. This must be it, the artifact. And it's intact. Carefully, Jack lifted the artifact, and instantly, a low hum resonated from it, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Simon drew closer, his eyes wide with curiosity. Do you feel that? It's almost like it's alive. Let's document everything. We need to understand its purpose before we jump to any conclusions, Jack said, his voice steady but his hands trembling slightly with the thrill of the discovery. As they set up their portable lab equipment, a new voice joined them, radio crackling with the arrival of Dr. Emily Santos, their team's geologist. Jack, Simon, the scans from the orbiter just came back. You won't believe this, but the entire cavern system here is full of similar energy readings to your artifact. Jack exchanged a look with Simon. Emily, we might just have stumbled upon something monumental. Can you come down here and take a look at this? On my way, Emily replied, her tone conveying her anticipation. While waiting for Emily, Jack and Simon carefully cleaned and examined the artifact, taking preliminary scans and discussing their next steps. This could be a gateway to understanding the civilization that once thrived here, Simon mused, looking over the artifact. Jack nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. And possibly why it vanished. This artifact, do you think it's a key? It might well be, Simon agreed. But a key to what? Their conversation was interrupted as Emily descended into the cavern, her gear clanking softly. She approached the artifact, eyes scanning the data on her handheld device. This energy, it's unlike anything we've encountered before. If we can decode its structure, we might unlock new technologies or better, understand the fate of this alien race. Jack placed the artifact gently on a padded surface. Let's get everything we have back to the lab. We need full analyses, historical contexts, everything. This, he paused, looking between his friends. This is just the beginning. As the trio packed up their findings, the cavern seemed to echo with the whispers of its ancient creators, as if approving their quest for knowledge. The journey ahead was uncertain, yet it promised revelations that could change their understanding of the universe. Back at their mobile research base, Jack and Simon were hunched over the artifact, which now lay connected to an array of sensors and monitors. The lab was a hive of activity, with team members moving briskly, exchanging data and hypotheses. Simon, look at this. Jack pointed at the screen displaying the energy patterns of the artifact. The energy fluctuations sync up with the inscriptions almost perfectly. Simon adjusted his glasses, leaning in closer. You're saying the artifact's energy could be influenced by its inscriptions? Like a sort of control mechanism? Jack nodded, his eyes never leaving the screen. Exactly. And whatever it's controlling, it's powerful. At that moment, Dr. Alex Carter, a physicist specializing in alien technologies, joined them. I couldn't help overhearing. You think this artifact is not just cultural, but functional? Potentially, Jack replied. We're thinking it might be a device, possibly a safeguard left by the civilization. Alex rubbed his chin thoughtfully. If that's the case, activating it might require more than just power. We should consider the contextual meaning of the inscriptions. The three men delved into a detailed discussion about alien linguistics and physics, mapping out a strategy for experimenting with the artifact. They decided to simulate the energy patterns suggested by the inscriptions using the lab's quantum generator. As they set up the experiment, Simon's hand hovered over the activation switch. Are we absolutely sure about this? Once we start, there might be no going back. We need to know, Jack asserted with determination. On three? On three, Simon agreed, and Alex nodded in affirmation. 1, 2, 3. Simon flipped the switch, and the room filled with a soft, pulsing glow from the artifact. Suddenly, a holographic image flickered into existence above it, an alien figure, ethereal and translucent, speaking in a haunting melody. Jack immediately recorded the hologram while Alex tried to stabilize the projection. Simon, meanwhile, was frantically translating the alien speech. It's a historian? Or a storyteller? Maybe, Simon said, his voice filled with awe. It's talking about a curse. It says, the guardians shall awaken to judge the unworthy, to protect the sanctity of the stars. Jack's brow furrowed. A curse? Could this be a warning system then? Designed to protect something? Or someone? Alex added. This might not just be about guarding physical space, but perhaps guarding against misuse of knowledge or technology. They debated the implications, considering whether to continue with the activation. As they talked, they didn't notice the increasing intensity of the glow from the artifact until alarms blared, indicating energy levels were becoming dangerously high. Shut it down, Simon. Jack yelled over the noise. Simon hit the emergency cutoff, but the artifact continued to hum, more controlled now. The hologram stabilized, the alien figure's message becoming clearer. This device was not meant to be reactivated without understanding its purpose, the alien warned. Those who seek to unleash it without wisdom invite the doom that befell our own kind. As the hologram faded, the room fell silent. The only sound the quiet were of computer fans and the rapid breathing of the team. We need to proceed with caution, Alex said gravely. We might have just gotten lucky this time. Jack nodded in agreement. We'll analyze everything we learned tonight. But let's keep this under wraps until we know more. We can't risk this knowledge falling into the wrong hands. Agreed, Simon said, wiping his brow. Let's figure out what this doom was exactly, and ensure we avoid repeating history. The team spent the rest of the night discussing their next steps, sifting through the data with a newfound respect for the artifact's power and its dire warnings. What had begun as an exploration had quickly become a mission to understand, and perhaps prevent a cosmic catastrophe. The early morning light filtered softly through the windows of the mobile lab as Jack and Simon sat reviewing the data from last night's experiment. The atmosphere was tense, each man absorbed in his own thoughts about the implications of their findings. So, what's our next move? Simon asked, breaking the silence. We can't just sit on this. We need expert help. Jack nodded, tapping on his tablet to pull up a list of contacts. I've been thinking about that. We need someone who understands not only the language but the energy patterns. I know someone who might help, Dr. Thomas Reed. He's a specialist in alien energy systems, and he's done work on integrating alien tech with human interfaces. Reed, huh? Simon rubbed his chin thoughtfully. I've read some of his papers. Brilliant work. But isn't he out on the frontier station? That's not exactly around the corner. It's the best shot we have. Plus, the station has equipment we can only dream of here. I'll call him, Jack decided, pulling up a communication link on his tablet. The screen flickered, and after a few moments, Dr. Thomas Reed appeared, his face framed by the tight quarters of his office on Frontier Station. Jack, to what do I owe the pleasure? Jack wasted no time. Tom, we've discovered something, an artifact on Viridian 3. It's emitting energy patterns we've never seen, and it projected a hologram speaking of a curse. We need your help to understand its technology. Thomas's eyebrows shot up. A curse, you say? That sounds ominous. Send me the data. I'll take a look. Jack sent the files through the secure link, and Thomas began reviewing them immediately. This is fascinating, Thomas murmured as he scrolled through the readings. And dangerous. I think you're right to seek help. When can you get here? We can be there in 48 hours, Jack replied. Good. I'll prepare everything. Safe travels. Thomas signed off, his expression serious. Jack and Simon began packing up their equipment and securing the artifact for transport. As they worked, they discussed the implications of involving Thomas. Do you trust him? Simon asked, sealing a container. With my life, Jack responded without hesitation. Besides, we need what he knows. The journey to Frontier Station was uneventful, the quiet of space a stark contrast to the storm of thoughts and theories brewing in both men's minds. Upon arrival, they were greeted by Thomas, who ushered them straight to his lab. Let's get to work, Thomas said, setting up the artifact in a containment field. He ran diagnostic tests, integrating it with the station systems to better analyze the energy emissions and holographic data. As they delved deeper into the analysis, the artifact began to resonate, its glow steady and somehow reassuring. Thomas, Jack, and Simon watched in awe as new images flickered to life above the device. This is more complex than we thought, Thomas said, recording every new symbol and fragment of holographic speech. It's not just about technology, it's about philosophy, ethics. This civilization was trying to safeguard something very important. Jack leaned closer to the hologram, trying to make sense of the flowing alien script. Tom, can we translate this in real time? Let me adjust the decoder. Thomas fiddled with the controls, and slowly, the alien words transformed into English on a nearby screen. There we go. The message was a plea, an urging for wisdom and restraint in using the power the artifact held. It spoke of the downfall of greed and the destruction unleashed by unchecked ambition. We're dealing with a moral safeguard, Simon concluded. An ethical lock on their technology? Yes, and it looks like it's up to us to prove we can handle it responsibly, Thomas added. The three men agreed to continue their research together, combining their expertise to unlock the artifact's secrets while adhering to the ethical guidelines hinted at by the ancient alien civilization. Their collaboration marked the beginning of a profound journey into the unknown, one that could potentially alter the course of human history. In the depths of Frontier Station's lab, the work on the alien artifact continued. Jack, Simon, and Thomas spent days piecing together the fragments of knowledge locked within the ancient device. As the days turned into nights and back again, the confines of the lab fostered not just a professional alliance, but a deepening bond among the three men. One evening, as they reviewed the day's findings, Thomas poured 3 cups of coffee and handed them out. You know, he started, his eyes reflecting the glow from the monitors. When I signed up for Frontier Research, I never imagined I'd be decoding ancient alien ethics with the likes of you. Jack chuckled, accepting the coffee with a nod. Life has a funny way of throwing us into the deep end, but I'm glad it's with you guys. Simon sipped his coffee thoughtfully. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If those aliens could see us now, huddled around their creation, trying to learn not just how it works, but why it exists. It shows, Thomas added, that curiosity is a universal trait. Maybe it's what doomed them, but it's also what's bringing us together. Their conversation drifted from philosophical musings to the more practical aspects of their research. They discussed the latest hologram they had decoded, which depicted a sort of council of the alien race, deliberating over the activation of the artifact. Seems like they were deeply divided on its use, Jack observed, pointing to a sequence in the hologram. This faction, he motioned to a group on the left, appears to advocate for restraint, and these others, Simon pointed out, are clearly pushing for its deployment. It's almost like watching an ancient drama unfold. The dialogue provided by the artifact grew more intense, and Thomas adjusted the translation software to better capture the nuances of the alien language. The ethics lock must have been their compromise, a way to ensure that only those with the right intentions could access the full power of the artifact. As the night wore on, the trio continued to analyze and debate each discovery, their shared excitement palpable in the cramped space of the lab. The collaborative atmosphere was punctuated by bursts of laughter and the occasional philosophical debate, weaving a tapestry of camaraderie and mutual respect. At one point, as they hovered over a particularly complex diagram, Jack clapped Simon on the back. "Could you imagine doing this without him?" he asked, nodding towards Thomas. "Not a chance," Simon replied with a grin. "Tom's expertise is the glue holding our wild theories together. And your linguistic skills are what's making this translation possible," Thomas pointed out. "And Jack, without your intuition and archaeological experience, we wouldn't have gotten this far." Acknowledging each other's contributions, they returned to their work with renewed vigor. The next holographic sequence showed the artifact in action, calming storms on the alien world, a display of its power and potential. "This is it," Jack said softly, a sense of awe in his voice. This is what they were protecting, the ability to control the very elements, and the responsibility that comes with such power, Thomas added. "We need to continue this with care." As dawn began to light the edges of space visible from their window, the men were still absorbed in their work, united by a shared mission to unlock the secrets of the artifact safely and responsibly. Their bond, formed in the crucible of discovery, promised not only to illuminate the past, but to forge a path forward with wisdom gleaned from those who had gone before. In the sterile, buzzing environment of Frontier Station's lab, Jack, Simon, and Thomas stood before a newly uncovered map displayed from the artifact. This digital rendering pointed to another location, presumably where the alien civilization had hidden further knowledge or technology. Simon traced the lines on the screen, his brow furrowed in concentration. "This map, it's not just a set of directions. Each waypoint is marked with symbols that resemble those on the artifact. It's like a pilgrimage." Thomas leaned closer, analyzing the symbols. "Each symbol must represent a test or a trial based on what we've deciphered about their ethical safeguards. It's a journey meant to prepare whoever seeks to unlock the full capabilities of the artifact." Jack nodded, excitement stirring in his chest. "Then we should follow the map, see where it leads. Maybe it'll give us more insight into how to handle the artifact without repeating their mistakes." The three agreed to set out on the expedition, organizing a small team equipped with the necessary tools and supplies. They boarded a shuttle, the hum of the engines blending with their quiet anticipation as they left the station. Upon landing on the designated planet, the team was greeted by a vast landscape of towering crystalline structures that shimmered under the planet's twin suns. The beauty of it was breathtaking, yet each man knew the dangers hidden beneath the surface. As they approached the first waypoint, a device embedded in the ground activated, projecting another hologram. This one was more complex, displaying what appeared to be a test of logic and moral reasoning. "We need to solve this to move forward," Jack stated, examining the holographic interface. "It's asking us to choose an outcome for a hypothetical scenario involving the allocation of scarce resources." Simon and Thomas joined him, debating each potential decision's consequences. "If we choose to allocate resources based on need, it adheres to one set of ethical principles," Simon pointed out. "But if we prioritize efficiency, it might lead to a better overall outcome, albeit a harsher one," Thomas countered. They eventually agreed on a decision that balanced compassion with pragmatism, and the hologram shifted, clearing the path to the next waypoint. As they journeyed from one challenge to the next, each waypoint tested their understanding of the alien civilization's values and their ability to apply those ethics practically. The trials were varied, involving puzzles, physical tests, and even emotional simulations. During a particularly challenging physical trial, Jack struggled to complete a task designed to test endurance and ingenuity under pressure. Breathing heavily, he looked to his companions for support. Simon, seeing Jack's difficulty, jumped in without hesitation. "Here, let me help." Together, they rearranged the heavy physical components required to form a conduit for energy flow, their combined strength succeeding where Jack alone had faltered. Thomas, monitoring the changes in the artifact's readings, noticed a pattern. "Every test we pass, the artifact's emissions stabilize more and more. It's like we're tuning it, calibrating it to us." With each completed test, the bonds of their friendship deepened, the shared experiences forging an unspoken understanding and respect. By the time they reached the final waypoint, the trio had faced not only the alien civilization's technological and ethical heritage, but had also explored the depths of their own capabilities and moral compasses. The last test was different. It required a unanimous decision on a moral dilemma that asked them to weigh their desires against the potential impacts on an unknown future. After a heated debate, they reached a consensus, choosing a path that ensured the safety and well-being of others over personal gain. As the final hologram faded, the ground beneath them shifted, revealing an entrance to an underground facility filled with ancient technologies and archives, a library of a lost civilization, preserved for those who proved worthy to inherit its wisdom. Jack, Simon, and Thomas stepped inside, awestruck and humbled, ready to uncover the secrets held within, their journey together far from over. Inside the vast underground library, the air was thick with the dust of millennia. Jack, Simon, and Thomas were surrounded by towering racks filled with data crystals, each a repository of alien knowledge. The sheer scale of the archive was overwhelming. "This is incredible," Jack murmured, running his hand along one of the crystalline structures. "Each of these could hold answers to countless questions we haven't even thought to ask." Thomas, who had brought a portable reader from the shuttle, began interfacing with the crystals. "Let's start cataloging. We need to understand their contents before we can delve deeper." Simon nodded, pulling out his notepad. "We should document our process, keep track of what each crystal pertains to. It could take years to go through all this." As they worked, they developed a rhythm. Thomas would extract preliminary data from a crystal, Jack would assess its relevance, and Simon would record their findings in detail. The collaboration was seamless, born of long hours spent in close quarters, learning to anticipate each other's needs. In one section of the library, Jack discovered a series of visual recordings, likely historical accounts. He activated one, and the room lit up with the ghostly images of the alien civilization in its prime. The three men watched in silence, absorbing scenes of daily life, celebrations, and governance. "It's like watching ghosts," Simon said softly. "A whole world gone. Just like that. But not forgotten," Thomas added. "Not as long as we're here to learn from them." As they continued exploring, they stumbled upon a sealed chamber. The door was marked with symbols that were starkly different from those on the rest of the library, symbols that indicated danger. Jack paused, looking to his friends. "Should we open it?" Thomas checked the readings on his scanner. "The energy levels inside are off the charts. Whatever's in there, it's powerful." Simon pulled up their translated database. "According to this, it's a repository for their most advanced technology. It's separated for a reason, likely because of its potential for misuse." The decision to enter weighed heavily on them. After a brief discussion, they agreed to take the risk, knowing that understanding this technology could be crucial to preventing future disasters. Simon input the deactivation code they had deciphered earlier, and the door slowly slid open, revealing a chamber filled with devices of unknown functions and a central console that pulsed with light. Jack led the way, his curiosity overcoming his caution. "Look at this," he called out, gesturing towards the console that seemed to be the hub of the chamber. Thomas approached, his device ready to interface. "Let's see if we can power it up. It might give us some insights into what these devices are for." The console came to life at his touch, and a new hologram appeared. This time, a detailed tutorial on the use of the technologies stored within. It explained their purposes, from energy generation to planetary defense. As the night stretched on, they tested each device carefully, documenting how to use them and discussing the ethical implications of such power. Their debates grew more passionate, each man expressing his perspective shaped by their shared experiences. During a particularly intense discussion on the deployment of a terraforming device, Jack stood and placed his hands on the console, his voice firm. "We have to be careful not to repeat their mistakes. These tools could save planets or doom them." "You're right," Thomas agreed. "It's not just about can we use them, but should we?" Simon nodded, making notes in their log. "Let's draft guidelines. For each technology, a set of ethical protocols." The three worked into the early hours, crafting a framework for the safe use of the alien technologies. Their shared dedication to responsibility over ambition marked a significant moment in their journey, not just as scientists, but as custodians of a potentially civilization-changing discovery. As they finally paused for a break, they shared a quiet meal, looking over the alien cityscape from a viewport. The city, illuminated by the alien moons, served as a silent reminder of the fragility of civilization. "We're not just discovering history," Jack said, watching the night sky. "We're setting the course for the future. Let's make sure it's a good one," Simon added, his tone hopeful. Together, they returned to their work, united by a common goal and strengthened by the bonds formed through their profound journey. The dawn of a new day on the alien planet brought fresh insights and revelations. Jack, Simon, and Thomas continued their meticulous work within the underground library. As they decoded more data, a consistent narrative began to form, a narrative deeply intertwined with a figure that stood out amongst the records, a powerful female leader or scientist of the ancient civilization. "This is fascinating," Thomas remarked as he pulled up a detailed holographic image of the woman. "She seems to have been a central figure in the development of these technologies. Maybe even the one who implemented the ethical safeguards." Simon leaned closer, his interest piqued. "Her name keeps coming up. According to these texts, she was not only brilliant, but also deeply concerned about the future. She foresaw the potential for disaster." Jack adjusted the focus on the projector, enhancing the clarity of the ancient scripts surrounding the woman's image. "It's almost as if she's reaching out through time, urging us to understand and perhaps complete what she started." The three men set about piecing together her life story, using every scrap of information the archive offered. They discovered her personal logs and diaries, which provided profound insights into her thoughts and fears. "Listen to this," Jack read aloud from a digital diary entry. "The power we wield comes with immense responsibility. If not bound by moral fortitude, our light can become an all-consuming fire. She knew the dangers." "She's the one," Thomas murmured, realization dawning on him. "She's the key to understanding how to use these technologies safely." As they delved deeper into her legacy, they uncovered a private chamber within the library, a sanctum where the most sensitive information was stored. The door to this chamber was sealed, not by a numeric code or a key, but by a biometric scanner designed for her specifically. Simon examined the device. "We can't open this without her, or at least her genetic signature." Thomas, ever the problem solver, suggested a radical idea. "What if we could? We have her genetic information here. What about synthesizing a key?" The proposal was risky, but after much debate, they agreed to attempt it, driven by the need to honor her legacy by completing her work responsibly. They used the genetic sequencer in the lab to synthesize a sample that would match the biometric lock. With bated breath, they watched as Jack placed the synthesized sample onto the scanner. The lock disengaged with a soft click, and the door slid open, revealing a room filled with her personal effects and, more importantly, her final projects. "This is it," Simon whispered. "Her life's work." The room was a treasure trove of advanced scientific work, including her last experiment, an innovative energy system designed to harness the power of the artifact without the risk of corruption or misuse. "It's designed to be fail-safe," Thomas noted as he reviewed her notes. "It automatically deactivates if certain ethical parameters aren't met." As they explored her final creations, they realized that her work provided not just the means to use the technology safely, but also a framework for ensuring it served the common good. This woman, she outlived her time. Her own civilization's demise. Through this, Jack said, gesturing around the room. Her curse wasn't just about the potential for disaster. It was about ensuring only those with the right intentions could succeed where her people failed. Energized by their discovery, the three men began to integrate her principles into their own project plans. They used her ethical frameworks as a foundational guide for deploying the alien technology, ensuring that it would benefit humanity without repeating the tragic mistakes of the past. As the day turned to evening, they stood together in the woman's sanctum, a feeling of solemnity between them. They were not just researchers or explorers now. They were guardians of a powerful legacy, entrusted with knowledge meant to steer civilizations towards a brighter, more secure future. "We'll make sure her legacy isn't forgotten," Thomas vowed. and that her wisdom guides us forward. With that, they left the chamber, the door closing softly behind them, sealing again the legacy of the woman who had shaped the destiny of not one, but two civilizations. The final day at the underground library dawned clear and bright, signaling the end of an intense period of discovery and growth for Jack, Simon, and Thomas. As they packed up their equipment, their conversation was reflective and forward-looking. "We've got enough data to keep us busy for years," Jack remarked as he secured a crate of data crystals. "But more importantly, we have a blueprint for how to use it responsibly." Simon, labeling the crates, nodded in agreement. "She gave us a roadmap, not just for the technology but for maintaining our ethical compass. We need to share this, make sure it becomes part of the fabric of how we deal with alien tech." Thomas, checking the inventory list, added, "And we need to set up a permanent research outpost here. This place, her legacy. It's too important to be left to chance discoveries." Jack paused, considering Thomas's words. "You're right. I'll propose it to the council. They need to understand the significance of what we've found." As they finished their preparations to leave, the artifact itself seemed to hum with a gentle farewell, its light dimming as if acknowledging their departure. The three men stood before it, a silent pact forming between them. "We're the custodians now," Simon said solemnly. "It's up to us to honor this gift and protect it." They made their way back to the surface, the alien suns casting long shadows across the landscape. Aboard their shuttle, they settled into their seats, the familiar hum of the engines a comforting backdrop to their thoughts. As the shuttle ascended, Jack looked back through the viewport at the planet shrinking below them. "Do you think we'll ever come close to understanding everything she knew?" "Maybe not," Thomas replied, staring into the vastness of space. "But that's not really the point, is it? It's about what we do with the understanding we have." The journey back to Frontier Station was quiet, each man lost in his thoughts, planning the next steps. When they docked, the reality of their return hit them. Their discovery wasn't just a scientific triumph, it was a responsibility. Once back at the station, they convened in the main conference room, preparing to brief their superiors and the scientific community. Jack led the presentation, starting with their initial discovery and leading up to the ethical frameworks they had uncovered. "As we integrate this technology, we must be guided by the principles laid out by the ancient scientist," Jack explained. Her work was designed to ensure that the power of the artifact was used to enhance life, not endanger it. Simon took over, discussing the potential applications of the technology. "With these guidelines, we can avoid past mistakes. We can make sure that our advances are not just for the benefit of a few, but for the betterment of all." Thomas concluded with the proposal for the research outpost and a call for an international panel to oversee the ethical implementation of the technology. "This is a new beginning for humanity," he stated. "A chance to grow, not just technologically but morally and ethically." The response was overwhelmingly positive, the community recognizing the importance of their findings and the need for careful stewardship. As the meeting broke up, Jack, Simon, and Thomas shared a quiet moment together. "We did it," Simon said, a small smile playing on his lips. "We did," Jack agreed. "But this is just the beginning. Now comes the hard part." Thomas clapped them both on the shoulders. "With you guys at my side, I think we can handle the hard part." Leaving the conference room, they looked back one last time at the display showing the alien artifact. It was no longer just an object of scientific curiosity, but a beacon guiding them towards a future filled with promise and potential. And as they walked down the corridor, their steps were light, their hearts full, ready to take on the challenges of a new era.